Today's November 5th, 7:50 a.m. and so I just there's your tea, because I was playing. I just look.
Every dog like Boomer, Boomer, oh Boomer, oh Boomer, oh Boomer, oh Boomer, oh Boomer, Boomer, oh Boomer, oh Boomer. Yeah, Boom. Here, Boom. Come on, you love that, don't you, Boom? Hey? Oh, Boomer, oh, Boomer, oh, Boomer. You were a big old boy. Oh, Boomer, oh, Boomer, oh, Boomer. You were a big old boy. Yeah, Boomer, you were a thirsty dog, Boom. You were a big old boy. Oh, Boom.
The guy comes like,
Yeah, Boom, you were a big thirsty dog, Boom. You drank it all up. Boomer. Oh, Boom. Yeah?
You're up. You're up.
All right.
Do you want me to hang here with them?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
So when you...
These are Boomer's last moments. So, look, I want to sing Boomer's song. Boomer.
anyway. Anyway, I got up. I heard. I heard Michael Wolff say this. And I'm just gonna play it real quick.
That Trump's speed and energy over the last 10 months is not playing out well, nor indeed is the shutdown, and that people are beginning to blame the Republicans, who've of course got all three branches, for the shutdown.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I mean, having been following this Trump story for far, far longer than I ever imagined or ever wanted to, I am always left with this feeling that nobody remembers anything, and it is quite possible that everything that we're talking about now, no one will remember that. But let's at least kind of plant a flag here that it is possible that this shutdown is one of those things that will have a permanent impact on.
Okay. I'm not thinking about the shutdown or anything. I'm thinking about his words that it is quite possible that nobody will remember anything. But let us at least plant the flag here. And those words, it is quite possible that nobody will remember anything. But let us at least plant the flag here. it is quite possible that nobody will remember anything. But let us at least plant the flag here. And those words, made a lot of meaning to me. And spoke to me in a deep way. It affected me down deep. I was thinking about the Akashic Records, because I just learned about the Akashic Records, and I heard that Tesla thought that he got a lot of his ideas or whatever from what's called the Akashic Record. And without going into what all that means, because I only have a vague idea what Akashic Record actually means, but it seems like it's in conjunction with the whole idea that there's a level of consciousness that is not just confined to the gray matter inside of our bodies or whatever. I mean, they did experiment, I think, like with some kind, I don't know if it was a worm or what it was, but they okay, whatever it was, it had a brain. I think a worm has a head, and I think it might have like a brain. And if it wasn't a worm, it was something else. But what they did is the worm learned something, which you would think like it had the memory of what it learned like in its brain, but then they cut off the head, because worms can grow back their heads, and even after it cut off its head, when it grew a head back, it still retained the knowledge of what it learned. All right, and so then you have to ask yourself, well, if it remembered how it did what it learned to do or whatever, then how? And you cut off its head, and how can it get a new head, a new brain, and then still have the same learning that it had before? And it actually learned something, not something that's programmed into every fiber of a person's being. Okay, well, maybe stuff is programmed into every fiber of our being, or it could be in the Akashic Record. Okay, and that is consistent with the notion of out-of-body experience and stuff like that. That consciousness has been seen to exist even when gray matter isn't firing. Like there's nothing going on up here, in the cerebral cortex. And Bob Dylan, I remember him saying one time that he, in the early days, of his songwriting, some of the stuff that came to him, he didn't know how it came to him, but it did. Could be Akashic Records, see? Because they say that our brains are more like, well, they've said this for a long time, but I think even now, scientists are more starting to believe evidence, that suggests that our brains are like receptors, like tuning in, like a radio. You have to tune in to the frequency of the channel, and then you get what's playing on the channel. And that metaphor there, has been used, a lot now. And it's like, you gotta tune in. Okay. All right. And I've just, noticed that, in my life, like I have went through different phases, and in each one of those different phases, I come to realizations and understandings and suggestions that I hold in suspension because I don't really actually know what it means. Okay, and this is the case, with my youngest boy's family, because after now I got on Facebook, he sent me a message and said that he showed me a picture of, on his phone, him showing his daughter, like, listening to one of my talks or something, of my journal entries. And when he told me her name, it was like the world unfolded before me. And I saw a glimpse of a reality. It's not right here in time and space, but nevertheless, it was like a reality. And it reminded me of, reminds me this morning, I was kind of thinking about it, and, I can't remember what I was dreaming last night. Lately, there was a time I was remembering, like, all my dreams, like, even when I wake up, like, I'm still dreaming. and I'm kind of trying to coordinate it all. But, when he mentioned, when he said, or when I read, because actually I read it, I didn't talk to him, but he said her name was Arden, and as soon as I never heard the name Arden before, but it was like a whole new meaning, like, just like unfolded, like, right there on the spot. And like, I all of a sudden knew something, and I felt it. I felt and I knew it at the same time. And I just had the impression that she was going to be an attorney for something, and that my son and his wife, who reminded me of, when I seen her picture, looked, I mean, not exactly like Karen, but looked like a lot like Karen. I don't know. Could have been the glasses, could have been her hair, could have been the outline of her face. There's subtle similarities that trigger feelings, I suppose, and memories, or could be tapping into the Akashic record. And that with and stuff in the Bible, ancient stuff, like stuff written a long time ago. And it says, your old men will dream dreams and your young men will see visions before that great and notable day of the Lord, or something like that. Well, when there is no time and space, it's just understood as a construct, so that something could be analyzed and considered. And we're living it out right now. What happened 1,000 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, is like still in the now. Anyway, delving into those kind of thoughts are too deep for me. It kind of hurts my brain to actually kind of try to wrap my brain muscle around some of them concepts. And it's like just too much weight for me to lift. Like, I can lift some weight, but there's a point that's just impossible. And it's these impossible points that really bring wonder to the thinking about that book I got, I Wonder, little kid's book, you know. But I wonder, it brings you to that point, and you really aren't really able to go much further than that. Some people try to enter through the veil of darkness to see the light, but most times it's just an imagination. Nevertheless, nothing could be more real. And that seems to be, for me, the way it is. But as I was thinking, you know, like, okay, I thought, you know, like, I sent my son a message and told him, man, I think, you know, your daughter is going to be like an important lawyer, an attorney, fighting for something, I don't know what, you know. But it seemed to me that both his parents, you know, my son and his wife, I can't, I don't know her name. Like, I know a long time ago, like, when he was dating her or something, I mean, he told me, but I can't remember. And he might have even told me in his text message, he might have referred to her by name, but I don't remember at this point. But I can remember her face, and I know the impression that I had immediately, like, you know, like, no, she reminds me of his mom. And I made the correlation, you know, okay, well, if she reminds me of his mom, she must be smart like his mom. And, well, if you are of the stratosphere of smart people, in certain ways, you know, everybody has their own kind of intelligence, but, you know, some people can, they call an erudite scholar, I think it's EURIDITE, or it might not have an E, it might be UR, but I think it's EUR, erudite. And that means, like, sharp as a tack. You're writing with sharp pencil lead. Okay? You can make delineations and find differentiations. So, you know, nobody's gonna be pulling the cover over your eyes like that, you know? Nobody's gonna be feeding you bullshit, and you're not gonna be, like, not knowing that you're eating bullshit. But anyway, that was my sense impression, and I don't know why I thought about that. Like, I don't know why that thought popped in my head immediately. Like, wow, and like all of a sudden I knew that all three of them are going to be involved in something together later on down the road, because of course she's a baby. Okay, but then okay, this morning I was thinking, okay, well, when it happened to Mary, the mother of Jesus, and her cousin Elizabeth, and Elizabeth, you know, both of them mothers, you know, knew something, like, they knew something, like, there's something special about Jesus. And even John the Baptist, when he seen Jesus, all of a sudden he knew. Okay, well, it's this business of knowing. And some things we know because we sense it. We don't have, like, words to actually make, you know, like make it into, like, words. But we sense it, and we can't mark it down, and with meaning, the meaning of words that help us remember things. Well, Arden is a word that I never heard before. It's a name I never heard before. And it could be like Arden might remind me of the word erudite. knowing my son, you know, Arden probably comes from one of them ancient pieces of literature, not really ancient, but I don't know, maybe back to Shakespeare or something like that. It probably came from one of them things. Arden. A good name. A special name for a special person. Well, anyway, so, you know, I'm just citing the example like of Bob Dylan, Tesla, Elizabeth, and Mary. And Mary pondered all these things in her heart. She actually hid these things in her heart, you know, in her heart. She planted a flag. But a flag was planted, okay? The punctiliar notice. In the perfect tense. Bam. Goes forward for all time and eternity. And the meaning is going to be known. We're just going to, and we're going to be part of it. We're going to bear witness. We bear witness to the meaning, you know. Like we are the filters. We are God's filters. And God uses us to distinguish things, I suppose. I mean, it was just my conjecture. Because else, why else would all these things be an understudy? And, you know, I had to say goodbye to the Boomer, you know. You're hearing one of my dogs in there barking, rip. So now I only got 5 dogs left. And Boomer, every time I look at the videos I've made, you know, my heart breaks and bleeds. And I come to the recollection of everything in times past. You know, when my heart broke and bled. And I know I'm not alone in these kind of things. Everybody, like I'm thinking, you know, like I know a lady, Sylvia Thomas, you know. I remember a young boy, you know, her and her husband Mark were the youth ministers of a church I went to. And they were trying to have children, and she had like 5 or 6 miscarriages, you know. Not in a time that all in the time that I knew her, but I remember I don't know, maybe him, maybe her. Had to be either him or her saying something about it, you know. That's a lot of pain, especially for a woman. And, you know, honestly, I don't even know why, you know, like, I'm thinking about that, you know, in particular. I don't know. I don't know what it all means. But they got kids. They're old now. Like, they're already adults and everything. And I just wanted to, you know, plant a flag right here. Because, like, I don't know, man. I just felt something, like, in my heart or in my mind or in my spirit, you know, in my sensitivities and my sensibilities. In my sensibilities, I understand that, like Wolf said, you know, it is quite possible that everything could be forgotten. But, nevertheless, let us plant a flag. Says that we've been here. And we know that experience. And we bear witness to it. And it's our testimony. And in the last book of the Bible, you know. I just remember, you know, I can't remember in full, but the they will bear witness, it says. They will bear witness to the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, that these things, like in the Declaration of Independence now, these things are self-evident and cannot be denied. And that word self-evident comes from Benjamin Franklin, you know, because he told, I don't know who it was, James Madison, it was somebody, I think it was James Madison, who was actually wrote the thing, and then he took it to Benjamin Franklin and told Ben, you can change anything you want, Ben, because he trusted Ben. He said, just add your touch to it, okay? Well, Ben planted a flag. Yeah. So that's all I'm doing right now, you know. Is I had this impression, a sense impression about, you know, my granddaughter and her family, my son and his wife. And that unit right there, I felt in my heart, was gonna be like important. It was gonna be like the beginning of the story leading up to an important point in time when something is gonna have to be determined. And that this child is being prepared to plant that flag in the ground. You know, I mean, I'm not saying like, you know, like for some reason, like I'm like a soothsayer or something, you know, and I know what people are gonna do or anything like that, but I'm just saying, you know, I don't discount, you know, the Akashic record, if there is, but you know what the Akashic record, I mean, stands for, you know, and I'm not trying to appeal to anything except stuff that I am inclined to believe, but I can't prove anything one way or another. But that's the way of life. Exploration and signs and synchronicities and synchronicities. I was thinking, you know, I was going to have to put Sally down too, but I couldn't fit Sally in the truck, and it had to be just me and Boomer, because I couldn't. I know I'm going to she's probably going to be the one going next, because, you know, she's blind and stuff. And life is becoming more arduous for her. But before, see, she's real polite in her old age. She's really, I know you, baby. Baby Sally, come here. Baby Sally. I know you, baby. When I heard Mr. Wolf, I can't remember his first name now. Last name is Wolf. He wrote some books about you know, the life and times of Donald Trump, and he has like 100 hours of recording with Jeffrey Epstein. But listening to him on the Daily Beast, but he said it is possible that nobody will remember anything. But nevertheless, let us plant a flag here. And that's all I'm doing. Planting a flag. Alright.